All right, so you really want to understand Vodafone. Like, how are all their different business segments actually doing? And are they financially sound? And what are they doing to keep those investors happy? We've got the latest annual report right here and a whole stack of analyses, so let's dive right in.
Vodafone's really interesting. They're not just like your typical telecom company anymore. They're really trying to position themselves as this like platform for digital solutions, almost like a tech company, but with this massive network as its base.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, they highlight these four mega trends that are shaping the industry. Connected devices,
Mhm.
digital payments, the move to the cloud, and even like generative AI. But honestly, the one that just totally grabbed my attention is this whole economy of things concept.
Yeah, that's where things get a little bit like, whoa. Like imagine a world where all your devices are actually out there making transactions on your behalf, like your car automatically paying for parking or tolls, or your refrigerator reordering groceries before you even realize you're out.
Okay, that's either super convenient
Yeah.
or slightly terrifying, depending on how much control I'm giving up.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Vodafone's definitely betting big on this kind of interconnected future.
Oh, absolutely. And they've actually, divided their business into these segments that are really aligned with these trends. So you've got Vodafone Business, that's like their star performer right now, pulling in a 6.3% organic growth in service revenue.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, I'm seeing that growth is coming from both their core connectivity services
hmm
and these new digital services that they're offering. Can you like break that down for us a little bit more?
Sure. So connectivity is what we kind of traditionally think of with Vodafone, like mobile and fixed line services. But they've really been strategically expanding into areas like the Internet of Things, IoT. They're already connecting millions of devices, everything from smart meters to security
So
cameras.
instead of just being the pipes for the data, they're
Mhm.
getting into the whole ecosystem of connected devices.
Yeah.
That's got to be where a lot of the growth potential is, right?
Exactly. And what's really interesting is they're not just selling like individual components, they're providing these like end-to-end solutions. Like take smart metering, for example. They can provide the network, the
Yeah.
hardware, the software, and even the data analytics to help utility companies manage energy consumption in real time.
So they're trying to become like a one-stop shop for businesses
Mm.
who are trying to embrace these digital transformations. Seems like a pretty smart way to leverage their existing network infrastructure.
It is, and they're also tapping into the growing demand for cloud technology. As more and more businesses move their operations to the cloud, they need that reliable and secure connectivity. That's where Vodafone steps in.
Like they've got that partnership with Microsoft
Yeah.
to bring cloud services to a much wider audience. So they're hitting like multiple growth avenues, connectivity, IoT, cloud services. It's quite a portfolio they're building.
And we can't forget about, their move into digital payments, particularly in regions with limited access to like traditional banking.
Right. That VodaPay super app they have in Africa really caught my eye. It's like a mobile banking platform, but it goes even further than that.
Exactly. It allows users to send money, pay bills, buy goods and services, even access microloans. It's really empowering people who've been excluded from the formal financial system.
It's pretty amazing how they're using technology to bridge that gap. So we've seen how Vodafone is strategically positioning itself for growth,
Yeah.
across all these different business segments. But now let's get down to the numbers and see how all of this is reflected in their actual financial performance.
Right, let's look under the hood. Overall, Vodafone delivered a pretty solid performance. Their adjusted EBITDA, which basically tells us how much profit they're making from their core operations, grew by 5%. They also generated 2.6 billion in pre-tax return on capital employed, which means they're using their investments effectively.
Those are some healthy numbers, but also seeing some mentions of, higher energy costs
Hmm.
and some bad debt impacts. Did those factors kind of drag them down at all?
Yeah, they did have some impact. But it's important to note that even with those challenges, their core business remained really strong. Their focus on cost efficiency definitely helped them to offset some of those external pressures.
So they're being financially savvy, always a good sign. Now, I know you're a pro at deciphering these financial statements, so could you break down some of the key metrics for us? What should we be paying attention to in their income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement?
Okay, let's start with the income statement. The most obvious metric is revenue. And we're seeing healthy growth across most of their segments, which is a good indicator of strong demand for their services. Then there's profitability, their EBITDA margin, which shows how much profit they make for every dollar of revenue. Was slightly squeezed due to those external factors we were talking about. However, their overall profitability level remained healthy thanks to those cost optimization initiatives.
So they're growing their top line,
Mm.
while keeping an eye on the bottom line. Makes sense. What about the balance sheet? What's the story there?
Okay, so on the balance sheet, you know their vast infrastructure is a key asset, but it also comes with a pretty hefty amount of debt. Managing that debt effectively is crucial. They need to make sure they generate enough cash flow to service those debt obligations, while also investing in future growth.
Which brings us to the cash flow statement, arguably the most important one for understanding a company's financial health.
Absolutely. Cash flow is like the lifeblood of a business. Vodafone's cash flow statement shows that they're generating a healthy amount of cash from their operations. That's a strong indicator of their ability to invest in growth, pay dividends, and manage their debt.
Okay, so they're making money,
Yeah.
managing their expenses, and generating cash. So far, so good. But what about those joint ventures they have in different parts of the world? Are those contributing positively?
It's a mixed bag. You've got Vodafone Ziggo in the Netherlands. They saw increased revenue, but they're facing some competitive pressure in their fixed customer base. Then you've got Vodafone Idea Limited in India. They're going through some equity fundraising, likely to bolster their position in that highly competitive market. And then there's KPG Telecom Limited in Australia. They're actually delivering dividends to Vodafone, which is a good sign.
So some are performing better than others, but they're all part of Vodafone's strategy to expand their global reach and tap into new markets. Now let's talk about those dividends that you mentioned earlier. Investors love a good dividend, right?
They certainly do. And Vodafone has a long history of rewarding shareholders through consistent dividend payments.
They've announced a final dividend for fiscal year 2023 of 4.5 euro cents per share. Plus, they've announced an interim dividend for the current fiscal year, 2024, of 4.5 euro cents per share. And on top of that, they've proposed a final dividend for fiscal year 2024 of another 4.5 euro cents per share.
That's right. If that final dividend is approved, that's a total of 13.5 euro cents per share for the year. That's a pretty attractive yield, especially in today's market environment. And they're not just stopping at dividends, they've also been actively repurchasing their own shares, which is another way to return value to shareholders.
It sounds like you're pulling out all the stops to keep those investors happy. But let's be realistic. No business is without its challenges. What are some of the headwinds that Vodafone is facing as they look to the future?
Well, the global economic environment is a major factor. We're seeing inflation, rising interest rates, and the possibility of recessions in some key markets. These factors could definitely impact consumer spending and business investment, which could potentially affect Vodafone's revenue growth. And then there's the intensely competitive landscape of the telecom industry. They're constantly facing pressure from rivals, both established players, then aggressive new entrants.
And of course, cybersecurity threats are a constant concern for any company that handles sensitive data, especially in the telecom industry.
Absolutely. Vodafone invests heavily in cybersecurity measures, but it's a constant battle to stay ahead of these evolving threats.
So they've got their work cut out for them. But let's not forget about the opportunities. The demand for digital services is only going to grow. And Vodafone is really well positioned to capitalize on that trend.
Right. And their partnership with Microsoft seems like a really key piece of that puzzle. It gives them access to a much wider range of cloud services and a broader customer base.
It's almost like they're teaming up with a superhero to conquer the cloud market. But let's not forget about the other piece of the puzzle, those mega trends that are shaping the future of the whole telecom industry. We talked about the economy of things earlier. How is Vodafone actually preparing for that interconnected future?
They're laying the groundwork by investing heavily in 5G and gigabit networks, which provide the speed and capacity to handle the massive amounts of data that will be generated by billions of connected devices.
It's like building bigger and faster highways to accommodate all those self-driving cars and delivery drones zipping around in the future. But beyond infrastructure, how are they approaching the economy of things from a business perspective? Are they just going to be the connectivity provider, or do they have a bigger role to play?
They're aiming for a much bigger role. They want to be a platform for innovation, connecting businesses, consumers, and devices, enabling this whole new world of possibilities. Imagine a scenario where your smart home is interacting with your electric car, optimizing energy consumption based on your schedule and electricity prices. Or your connected healthcare devices are sharing data with your doctor in real time, allowing for more personalized and proactive treatment.
Okay, now I'm starting to see the potential of this economy of things. It's not just about convenience. It's about creating a more efficient, personalized, and responsive world. But I'm also curious about the challenges they might face. Are there any potential downsides to this interconnected future?
Well, one concern is data privacy and security. As more and more of our lives become connected, the amount of data being generated and shared is growing exponentially. Protecting that data from breaches and misuse is absolutely crucial.
That's a good point. We've seen countless examples of data breaches and cyber attacks
Mm.
in recent years. If our refrigerators and cars are all connected to the internet, the stakes get even higher.
Exactly. Vodafone recognizes this. And they're investing heavily in cybersecurity measures to protect their networks and customer data. But it's an ongoing battle, and the threats are constantly evolving. They also need to consider the ethical implications of this technology. As our devices become more autonomous and interconnected, who's making the decisions? Who's responsible when things go wrong? These are complex questions that we as a society need to grapple with.
It's a bit like that old saying, with great power comes great responsibility. As Vodafone expands its role in this interconnected future, they'll need to think really carefully about the ethical implications of their technology and how they use their influence.
Absolutely. But it's not just about technology and ethics. It's also about the human element. As Vodafone embraces all these digital transformations, what about their employees? Are they being equipped with the skills and support they need to thrive in this changing world?
That's a great question. We've talked a lot about customers
Mm-hmm.
and investors and technology. But what about the people who make it all happen? Let's shift our focus to employee engagement and explore how Vodafone is approaching this really crucial aspect of their business.
Let's dig a little deeper into some of those challenges and opportunities. One thing that really stood out to me was just the sheer scale of their investment in infrastructure. I mean, they've built this massive network, but it comes at a cost.
Right. We saw that reflected in their balance sheet, where,
Yeah.
a pretty significant amount of debt. Makes you wonder if they're feeling the pressure to generate enough cash flow, not only to cover those debt obligations,
Yeah.
but also to keep investing in these new technologies like 5G and all those fancy digital services they're rolling out.
Yeah, it's a classic balancing act. Think of it like managing your own finances. You've got a big mortgage. You need to make sure your income can cover those payments. But you also want to have some left over to invest in things that'll, improve your life, like a new kitchen or a solar panel system.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So how's Vodafone doing at keeping that balance? Are they generating enough cash to, keep the lights on and also fund that future growth?
Well, from what I'm seeing, their cash flow from operations is actually quite healthy. This means they're bringing in enough cash from their core business activities to cover their expenses and invest in new initiatives. One metric they highlight is adjusted free cash flow, which factors in things like capital expenditures, the money they're spending on upgrading their network and infrastructure. A positive adjusted free cash flow is a good sign.
So that 2.2% increase in adjusted free cash flow that we saw in their financials is a signal that they're managing this balancing act pretty well. It's like they're generating enough cash to pay the mortgage, upgrade the kitchen, and put some money aside for a rainy day.
Exactly. And that financial stability gives them more flexibility to pursue those growth opportunities we were talking about earlier. They can invest in expanding their digital services, forging strategic partnerships, and even, making acquisitions if they see fit.
Speaking of strategic partnerships,
Yeah.
we touched on their collaboration with Microsoft to provide cloud services. What are the implications of that partnership? Could it be a game changer for Vodafone?
It certainly has the potential. I mean, Microsoft is a giant in the cloud computing space, and this partnership gives Vodafone access to their expertise, their infrastructure, and their customer base. It allows them to offer a much wider range of services, particularly to businesses looking to adopt cloud solutions.
It's almost like they're teaming up with a superhero
Yeah.
to conquer the cloud market. But let's not forget about the other piece of the puzzle, those mega trends that are shaping the future of the telecom industry. We talked about the economy of things earlier. How is Vodafone actually preparing for that interconnected future?
Well, they're laying the groundwork by investing heavily in 5G and gigabit networks, which provide the speed and capacity needed to handle those massive amounts of data that will be generated by, billions of connected devices.
So it's like building bigger and faster highways to accommodate all those self-driving cars and delivery drones zipping around in the future. But beyond infrastructure,
Yeah.
how are they approaching the economy of things from a business perspective? Are they just going to be the connectivity provider, or do they have a bigger role to play?
Oh, they're aiming for a much bigger role. They want to be like a platform for innovation, connecting businesses, consumers, and devices, enabling a whole new world of possibilities. Imagine a scenario where your smart home is interacting with your electric car, optimizing energy consumption based on your schedule and electricity prices. Or your connected healthcare devices are sharing data with your doctor in real time, allowing for more personalized and proactive treatment.
Okay, now I'm starting to see the potential of this whole economy of things. It's not just about convenience. It's about creating a more efficient, personalized, and responsive world. But I'm also curious about the challenges they might face. Are there any potential downsides to this interconnected future?
Well, one concern is definitely data privacy and security. As more and more of our lives become connected, the amount of data being generated and shared is growing exponentially. Protecting that data from breaches and misuse is absolutely crucial.
That's a good point. I mean, we've seen countless examples of data breaches and cyber attacks in recent years. If our refrigerators and cars are all connected to the internet, the stakes get even higher.
Exactly. Vodafone recognizes this. And they are investing heavily in cybersecurity measures to protect their networks and customer data, but it's an ongoing battle, and the threats are constantly evolving. They also need to consider the ethical implications of this technology. As our devices become more autonomous and interconnected, who's making the decisions? Who's responsible when things go wrong? These are complex questions that we as a society need to grapple with.
It's like that old saying, with great power comes great responsibility. As Vodafone expands its role in this interconnected future, they'll need to think carefully about the ethical implications of their technology and how they use their influence.
Absolutely. But it's not just about technology and ethics, it's also about the human element. As Vodafone embraces all these digital transformations, what about their employees? Are they being equipped with the skills and support they need to thrive in this changing world?
That's a great question. We've talked a lot about customers and investors and technology. But what about the people who make it all happen? Let's shift our focus to employee engagement and explore how Vodafone is approaching this crucial aspect of their business.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all the technology and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's the people who really drive a company's success. And it seems like Vodafone gets that. They've implemented some pretty interesting initiatives to boost employee engagement and create a positive work environment.
Yeah, I've seen this program called Grow My Impact, mentioned in their annual report. Sounds like they're really trying to align individual employee goals with the company's overall strategic priorities.
It's more than just setting goals, though. They're encouraging managers to have these regular conversations with their teams about career development and growth opportunities. It's about empowering employees to take ownership of their careers and feel like they're actually contributing to something bigger than themselves.
It's interesting they're putting so much emphasis on this. It suggests that they see a clear link between employee engagement and the company's overall performance.
Exactly. I mean, engaged employees are more productive, more innovative, and more likely to, stick around. And in a competitive industry like telecom, attracting and retaining top talent is absolutely crucial.
But how do they actually measure employee engagement? Are they just relying on gut feeling, or are they using more data-driven approaches?
Well, they've got this survey called the Spirit Beat. They use it to gather feedback from employees. It focuses on these key behaviors and values that they believe are essential for success.
So instead of just asking, are you happy? They're digging deeper into things like how connected employees feel to the company's strategy, whether they have clarity on their goals, and how supported they feel by their managers. Right. And what's really impressive is they're not just collecting this data, they're actually using it to drive real change. They found that managers who actually act on the feedback from the Spirit Beat survey tend to have teams with higher levels of engagement and performance.
So it's not just a box-ticking exercise. They're actually using those insights to improve their leadership training and provide managers with the tools they need to create a more, positive and supportive work environment.
They've also revamped their performance management system, linking individual goals to those strategic priorities, and encouraging regular feedback and development conversations. It's all about fostering a culture of continuous learning and growth.
It sounds like they're really trying to invest in their people and create a workplace where employees feel valued and empowered. But are these initiatives actually having a positive impact?
Well, the numbers suggest they are. Their employee engagement scores have been steadily improving, and they've seen a reduction in employee turnover. This indicates that their efforts to retain top talent are paying off.
That's encouraging. Seems like their focus on employee engagement is actually translating into tangible results. But of course, no company is perfect. Are there any areas where they could potentially do even better?
Well, their annual report does acknowledge the challenges of managing a global workforce. Ensuring consistent implementation of programs and initiatives across different regions and cultures can be really difficult.
It's like trying to herd cats.
Yeah.
But on a global scale, Everyone has their own way of doing things, and getting everyone on the same page can be a real challenge.
Exactly. They are working to improve communication and collaboration across their global teams, but it's an ongoing process. And with technology changing so rapidly, they need to make sure their employees have the skills they need to stay ahead of the curve.
We're seeing a lot of talk about the skills gap these days, and the telecom industry is no exception. As Vodafone expands into areas like the economy of things and artificial intelligence, they'll need to attract and retain top talent in those fields.
For sure. They'll need to offer competitive salaries, benefits, and development opportunities to compete with other tech companies for the best and brightest. But beyond those technical skills, they also need to cultivate a culture of innovation and adaptability. The telecom landscape is constantly evolving, so their employees need to be comfortable with change and able to learn new things quickly.
It's not just about what you know. It's about how quickly you can learn and adapt. That's a valuable skill in any industry these days.
Absolutely. And it seems like Vodafone is aware of this. They're investing in training programs to help their employees develop new skills and stay ahead of the curve. But it's not just about formal training. They're also fostering a culture of experimentation and collaboration, encouraging employees to share ideas and learn from each other.
That's smart. Sometimes the best learning happens outside of the classroom, through hands-on experience and collaborating with colleagues.
Exactly. So they're making progress. But they recognize that employee engagement is an ongoing journey. They need to continuously adapt and evolve their approach to meet the changing needs of their workforce.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored Vodafone's business segments, their financial performance, their strategic vision for the future, and their commitment to employee engagement. What are your final takeaways?
I'm really impressed by their ambition and their willingness to transform themselves from a traditional telecom company into this digital solutions platform. They're not just riding the wave of technological change, they're actively shaping it. They're making smart investments, forging strategic partnerships, and building a strong foundation for future growth.
And they're doing it while remaining committed to sustainability,
Hmm.
diversity, and inclusion, and creating a really positive work environment for their employees. It's a complex and challenging journey, but they seem to be navigating it with confidence and a clear sense of purpose.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to watch their story unfold in the years to come. Will they succeed in their ambition to become a leading digital solutions platform? Will they navigate the challenges of the economy of things and the evolving cybersecurity landscape? Only time will tell.
It's a story full of possibilities, and we'll be watching closely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Vodafone. We hope you found it informative and insightful. Keep exploring, keep learning. And we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the companies and trends shaping our world.